kind of talked about it this week. We're chasing our first real, 4 quarters of all three phases in, this year, and that's kind of what we're working for right now. We've played really good in spots, but I don't think we've consistently done it the way we want to yet, which is exciting, because you're in a spot where, you still feel like the best is ahead of you, and that's where we're trying to get to. So, that's been the point of emphasis this week is, 4 quarters in all three phases of our best, and that's what it's going to take this week. And that's really where you want to get, where you're playing 4 really good, solid quarters of football. It's been kind of a couple drives here and there, kind of all year on one side of the ball or the other, or teams, whatever it might be. So, that's what you're working for. And, at week 8, that's kind of, that's when you start getting closer to that. We need to get there in a hurry, with the rest of the teams that we've got here, particularly this week.
We've talked a lot about, obviously, all the points they've been putting up, but you mentioned that their defense has been playing well and that they're doing some things that are unique. What is unique about their defense, and what's the key in that matchup against their defense?
Well, their alignments are pretty unique in the way they do it, and I think, up front they have some really unique alignments. It's just not a traditional structure. It's, different. I don't know if I've ever really played someone that's played in it as much as they do. So, it's figuring out a way to identify it and making sure you're all on the same page, because it's just I don't know. I don't know a better way to put it. It's just really unique in the alignments. They do a really good job on the back end. They disguise coverages really well too. Whether it's man or it's post safety zone, or they drop into cover 2, it's a very similar pre-snap look, and a lot of it just happens on the snap. So, I think they've kind of found their groove a little bit on defense, and they've kind of settled into some things that they're doing really well. So, for us, it's just going to be, got to put it together, a plan, and work it all week, and try to, make sure that you got everybody on the same page here. And I think the key for us is always going to be handling all that stuff and being able to run the ball effectively. If you get into a game where you're trying to throw it every down against them, they do have the ability to play man and play it well, but then they mix all these other coverages, so you can't count on it just, that you just know what the coverage is. They do a really good job on the back end. I think you've got to be able to run the ball effectively, and hopefully you can get them in some things where they're getting someone in the box, and then the throw game is maybe a little bit more predictable for the quarterback. So, they've settled in on some really good stuff for them in the last 2 weeks. They've been lights out.
In terms of trying to find that consistency for yourselves or a complete game, what does that process look like? What can y'all do with players or whatever to try and have it come together that way, if there's anything, or just a matter of time?
Well, you're always racing the clock, kind of in what we do. From day one, it's like you're trying to get there really fast. So it's not just time. We have to kind of push that. And I think if you want to play a complete game, you have to work a complete week, and everything that goes within that. Every period in practice matters. You don't know like what keeps you from the complete game, right? Is it a 2-minute situation, right? Is it backed up like we had last week? Sometimes, shoot, it was just the second quarter on defense last week, and maybe that's a team period in the middle of practice that you didn't execute as well as you want to. So it's just, said it before, it's maintaining focus and intensity, for a long period of time, and it's not easy to do. But that's what, we have to continue to demand as coaches, and that's what we have to ask for, and that's what we have to push for, and that's what our players have to see, and they have to continue to push for that as well. So it's just, if you want to be a complete team, right, then everyone's got to do their job really well. If you want to play a complete game, you have to work a complete week, and that's, that's Monday, that's Sunday through Saturday, that's everything that goes into it, and it's at practice. It's every period of the practice. Shoot, it could be PAT field goal, right? Making sure that you're protecting it well so we can get points on the way. You don't know what it is, and that's the, you wish you had a crystal ball and say, all right, this is what's important this week. But that's kind of what makes it the challenge, and it's hard to do, but that's where I think we're growing and we're getting better there. But we gotta keep doing it. And like I said, it's gotta be in a hurry, because it's it doesn't get easier,
The defensive line and the pass rush obviously started the year red hot. Seems to have tapered off a bit. Kind of what's been those things that you think Dennis and his guys have been working on the last couple of weeks to kind of get back up to, kind of that level that they were at the beginning of the year?
Well, we're playing a lot better against the run on the defensive line, which matters to me more than anything, But they had some big sacks in the last game. The fumble, right before half, the sack fumble before half was huge for us. So I'm pleased with the progress we've made on the defensive line. I think I would rather play great against the run than have great pass rush any day. I mean, in this league, people are gonna run the ball at your face, so in this group for sure, will run the ball right at your face if you're just getting in pass rush and you're not holding gaps. I mean, I think some of it is some of the teams that we've played have run it a little bit more, than early in the year. But it's just like I said, I think that group has progressed a lot this year, and we need them to, need them to keep getting better. And I mean, they're working, all the fundamentals, all the things you have. But it's, I mean, I've been pleased. They've come up with some big stops and gotten pressure in big situations. Quarterback last week's not easy to sack. I mean, we had a couple times where we kind of got him in there and he scrambles and throws it away. That's obviously you want the sack, but that's effective. I mean, so everything kind of plays into it. But I've been pleased with the progress they've made.
South Alabama had, I don't know that I've ever seen a team have more returning starters back.
Yeah, me neither.
And they were playing really well last year when they came in here. Y'all held them to 17 before the last play of the game, got to 20. So I'm still trying to feel like, why are they seemingly better? Is it really, is it the quarterback, or what is it that they're actually doing better than last year when you saw them on the field?
Well, I mean, they're doing everything a little better. I mean, that's like what I said kind of on Monday. Like, I don't mean this in anything other than a compliment. Like, they just play really good fundamental ball on offense. Like, they're not like reinventing the wheel. It's not all these trick plays and gimmicks. It's good football. I mean, when you watch them play, I mean, their 5-0 linemen are playing together better than last year. I mean, they're on the same page. I mean, I think one thing that we always kind of take for granted a little bit is consistency and continuity. You always like, oh, well, this guy's going to be, he's going to be just as good as that guy, when you lose somebody. And the reality, though, is, all these guys playing together for a prolonged period of time, it does produce results. And they do have, I think it's maybe 18 out of 22, maybe, or back that are starters. I mean, that's unbelievable, I mean, today to have that. It's kind of like we were in 21. I think we had like 95% of our production was back. It's like, yeah, you feel like, okay, I mean, we've done some really good things. We can keep building off of it. And, I mean, they were a good team last year when we played them, and we, kind of went tooth and nail with them, ended up losing at the end. And this year, I mean, I don't expect this game to be a whole lot different. It's going to be, you better buckle up and you better bring it and play really good because they're playing great right now. And I think a lot of it's continuity. I think I know they're really well coached. I mean, you can see it on both sides of the ball, special teams, everything. They do a really good job with it. And, that group's been together, so that's what you're always kind of fighting. That's why you're trying to build a roster, that stays together, that continues to gel. And they've kind of, they got a lot of juniors and seniors on that team this year that have been playing together for the last 3 years in that system. And it's just all around, I mean, yes, I do think the quarterback's playing better, but the receivers are making, really good plays with the ball in their hands. The running backs run it really well. I think, and I've said it, their O-line tight ends, I mean, they're playing a lot better this year. I mean, there are no like ID issues there. You can tell what they're trying to do because they're all on the same page. So it's just, I think it's years in the system. And I think it's a really well-coached team. I mean, they have a year-round plan, obviously, because they just continue to get better.
Are you better off injury-wise than a week ago, or?
I mean, pretty similar, truthfully. Kind of pretty similar at this point. Caleb Anderson's trying to push. Don't know that he will be ready this week. We're hoping. I'm more on the offensive side of the ball at practice. So we're going to kind of talk about him and how he did today. But he was getting some stuff today, which is good. Sonny was back last week. He's back again. So I mean, we're kind of in a similar spot, which is not a bad place to be. I mean, all things considered in week 8. So, I'll take it. If we can, stay there. Tyler Guidry's going to miss this week, which is kind of a kick in the butt, but because he was playing really good for us. But so Gant's going to slide into some stuff out there. Cabote's going to have to play a little bit more on defense, which is good. CJ Caesar's a guy who was getting some reps for us. He's going to be out this week. So I mean, we're in a pretty similar spot. I think losing Tyler is probably the one from last week that hurts you a little bit.
With in the event that Caleb can't go for you guys, this will be, I think, the 3rd straight week where Agu's been able to be a significant contributor at the corner spot. Just talk about what he looked like 4 weeks ago versus what he looks like today in practice, and how much like improvement and growth there's been for him?
It's all about confidence for him, you know. I mean, and it's kind of funny. I was having a conversation with Caleb Anderson, you know, yesterday, asking him, and he's like, "I'm trying to go." Like, he's like, "I want to play," you know. And I said, "Well, you know," I said, "at least the Goose played really well, you know, in your place." And he said he really has. And so we're kind of talking. I said, "You know, it's funny. Sometimes we as coaches, we know that they're better than they know they are, if that makes any sense, you know." And Agu's a guy that, you know, I remember last year in the off season, when we were out there and we we're doing all season drills. It's kind of the first time I got to kind of watch it from that perspective. It's like, man, this guy's got like freaky movements. Like, he's really loose. He is fast. He's long. Like, this guy needs to play, you know. And last year he did a lot of things that we were excited about. Going into this year, you know, you kind of felt like, all right, it's time for him to kind of go break through. And I think he was still trying to build that confidence. You know, he was playing behind Caleb. But I'll say this, he worked really hard, and when we needed him to play, he played really well, and he's played well for us. So his confidence is just really high right now. And I think at that position in particular, you know, Caleb was the same way. From the time Caleb got here, we were always like, man, when this guy figures it out, like, he is going to be a great player for us. And, you know, and it took a little bit longer than what we want. I mean, we always want it to be faster than it is. Like, that's just the way it is. But once they figure it out and they start building that confidence, you can just kind of see it in them a little bit. And I think it's all about that, you know what I mean? We have a fun job because we get to take these guys that, you know, like I said, sometimes you see more in them than they see in themselves, and you get a chance to coach them and to build them up and to build a skill set, to build up their confidence and to put them in positions to go out there and to continue to coach on things. And, you know, that's the fun part about what we get to do, you know, is you get to see those guys kind of, the light goes off and it's like, there it is, you know. And so that's the fun part about it. And I think for him more than anything, it's really just been confidence. I mean, you know, he works really hard at it. Coach Burris and Coach Morgan, they do a really good job of coaching technique and all the things that are going to help him play well. And he's a smart kid. He listens to it and he takes coaching. And, you know, fortunately for us, he's played well when he needed to.
Where's Terrence Carter in that whole process of confidence and believing himself and picking things up?
I mean, Terrence is, he's on his way to that, you know, for sure. And I think there are days where it flashes and it's all there, you know. I mean, he's got everything you need to be a really good player. You know, and for us, I think at times he plays with a lot of confidence and he plays, you know, really fast and all that stuff. But, you know, there is a lot of things to learn in the tight end room. I mean, it's the second hardest position behind the quarterback in what we do. And he's done a really good job for us, you know. So it's still banked reps. It just over time, accumulated reps. You get to the point where it's like, you know, you've just seen so many things that it just becomes second nature. And whenever you're young, it's the first time every time, you know. So they do one unique thing and it's like, okay, well, okay, this is how we handle it. And then over time, it just becomes so much easier and more natural. I mean, Neil now, it's just so easy for him because he's played so much, you know. And that's where Terrence is at right now. He's banking reps. He's playing really well in the meantime, but there are times where some of those kind of maybe unexpected looks or those adjustments that they make, you know, they kind of get him a little bit, and then you got to kind of coach it up and teach him in a little bit. But he's a really smart kid and he cares a whole lot about it. And you know, the thing I have to say about Terrence is, like, I knew athletically he was never going to have a problem here, but in high school, I mean, he never played tight end. You know, he was wide out, you know. So I thought, well, it's going to take him a while to figure out the physical part of it. But he's been, I mean, to say he's willing is an understatement. I mean, he plays really physical and he's not scared to mix it up. He'll go stick his face in it. And when you have a guy that's willing to do all those things, it goes a lot faster. And that's why he's been able to play so well, you know, especially with Pierce out. I mean, he's stepped in and played really well.
Anything else? Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.